Very good morning, everyone. Charles here, Frgnt Daily Chart Analysis. Welcome to a new month. I hope you're doing well. As you can see by my charts, still yet to do my analysis for the start of the day. Nevertheless, I figured I will make a quick breakdown on the positions on Friday. I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest. I know I shouldn't have expectations in the market, but I am human. Still, unfortunately, unable to make myself incredibly robotic. Nevertheless, the technicals were speaking volumes. To be fair, in the terms of the positioning, where I was looking to understand whether or not we'd get a bullish reaction on the DXY, there were two trails of thought. To be fair. And on my previous videos, you can see those two trails of thought. It's whether or not the DXY was going to continue to respect that range, as we can see here, bottom right-hand chart on that daily time frame, rejecting those higher time frame order blocks, or whether or not price would just revert to basic price action and structure with the use of EMAs. Now, it is unfortunate. So price made that push up to those highs, which unfortunately was just a wick on that 4-hour time frame as a result of price then seemingly respecting that 4-hour 50 EMA. So by the time price returned back to where we'd be looking for that bullish reaction, either by previous order blocks or by session lows, we had already closed below that 4-hour 50 EMA. So it was a bit of a tentative approach whether price was going to respect that 4-hour 50 EMA as a result of retesting it and then moving back down to those lows, or would price just similarly just reach this point of interest at their lows and give that bullish push off to those highs. It was one of those where you can certainly understand upon taking a cross pair position, such as GU shorts, EU shorts, and AU shorts, you could understand straight away the risk that you'd be able to run into. Now, I certainly did take the risk, and it's a bit unfortunate, but nevertheless, I think that was a risk worth taking. But perhaps potentially rather as a result of it being on Friday, the not so much that anything can happen, but certainly if price was going to look to reject the lows of that range, potentially that could have been the session low. It was definitely worth the risk on the crossbear short. So we'll take a look to see what I got into on Friday. So GCAD first and foremost. We'll have a look at that. I certainly did take a short position on GCAD as a result of price coming back into this previous daily high area, 15-minute order block. We had a bearish rejection, breaking 1-minute structures. And what I simply did is took that position from that session high again. As you can see, not too much happened in the market. The previous candles broke and closed above that 4-hour 50 EMA, meaning that my range was pretty much down towards that 4-hour 50 EMA before having to look to lock that position off at break even. I didn't wait for price to touch that 4-hour 50 EMA. As a result of having the bearish move away, straight away, I've locked that off rather at break even, and you can see pretty much a nil mover for the rest of the day. So I just closed. Well, in fact, it took me back out break even. I'll show you here. We had this move, break even at that stage. Pricing came straight back up, made the low. Was a bit pissed at that stage, but nevertheless, price would have just came up and stopped me at break even. So it is what it is on GCAD. Very nice looking setup. Expecting a rollover still at some point, but that was the play on Friday. EU. So at this stage, I had a choice. Am I going to take EU, AU, or GU for that short position? And in my opinion, I most certainly had to take one. And I believe the favourite, unfortunately, I'll get to it at some stage, but EU wasn't the play that I took. For me, there was a much better position, which was GU. So we'll go over GU just quickly. So GU in itself, a bit of a risky position. We've understand already the DXY potential was going to look to reject that 4-hour 50 EMA to the downside. Unfortunately, as a result of having this candle close above that 4-hour 50 EMA at the time, well, as a result of my entry, you can see the outcome that I had. So price gave us that snap in the market, that break of structure points to the left. Price came back up to that 15-minute order block. Already a risky position. You can understand that Asia was available at the time price at my time of entry, and as a result of that 4-hour 50 EMA, that the previous candle still did in fact close it closed bullish. There was a bit of an inclination that, well, perhaps the next candle also could indeed look to push towards those highs, push through that 4-hour 50 may potentially take me out, and then close bearish if it's going to reject it to the downside. Unfortunately, what it did is just close bullish in its entirety. So there was a 50-minute order block just to the lows here, the only one that was available, meaning that, well, in fact, as a result of this push, if this just was a higher low, I've ended on a higher high potentially for that higher low continuation. There was an order block, and what I did, I moved my stop loss to half, but nevertheless, it didn't do anything. That 1545 candle absolutely ripped through the position in any case. So nothing really to speak about. In terms of my management, I could have just gone break even on the imbalance in the opposite direction, but I really didn't want to give that chance. Every position based on where the DXY was, but you can see exactly what happened at 1545. We just ripped through all areas and on the cross pairs respectively, we didn't really get much of a re-entry. So that was GU, that was the loss taken. We can have a look at EU in terms of why I didn't look to take EU personally, where we had the best of the bearish move coming from these highs. Now returning back up to these highs, that's where ideally I'd like to take a short position from as a result of being able to cover the majority of the highs. We did indeed get that snap and pullback like we had on GU, but of course I cannot possibly trade all cross pairs short, so just had to let this one go. We had a nice break of structure, snap at the lows. 4-hour 50 EMA was certainly on side as well. The previous 4-hour candle closing bearish below. We had that wick above. Perhaps EU would have been the potentially the better short position to take. Nevertheless, the candle closed bullish above that 4-hour 50 EMA anyway, just like on GU. So therefore, it would have been a loss either way. GJ, a position I didn't mind taking. As I've said previously, I've swapped out EG for GJ. EG, probably since the turn of the year, has been a bit of a nil mover. Every time I seem to get in a position that we're not having any real movement, and then it just takes off in either direction without any real technical meaning behind it. So I've since swapped EG out for GJ, so I'm literally just using all of my technical knowledge, every entry criteria on GJ at very low risk to see the performance before I look to add it in fully to the trading basket. But nevertheless, this was just simple sell limit, nothing really too much to talk about on GJ. Session high in the market caused a beautiful snap to the lows, breaking structure. Price return back up to that area, up at the highs, exactly where you want to be shorting from, as high as you possibly can. No order block in terms of support, higher time frame order block, that is, in terms of supporting that position. But what we did have was a wick imbalance from that weekly time frame. You'll see just here, looking to support that short position down. It was a simple sell limit, honestly, nothing too much to talk about. Moved to break even when we had that rejection from the market, and in fact I think I just closed it out at the end of the day. There was not much really going on, so that's at 21, I think around 21.50 I closed it out. And that was as simple as that, to be fair. I kind of just looked to recoup the loss coming from GU there, and it is what it is on GJ, not too much at all to talk about. AU, bit of a shame, really was looking forward to short AU. It was the favourite moving into the week last week, but as you can see, we just kind of trickled up to that higher time frame point of interest. No real break or no break of structure at all coming from that higher time frame 15-minute. So despite the fact I wanted to take a short on AU, the entry criteria really didn't present itself at all. I would have definitely looked to have been aggressive on AU, but given the opportunity, that would have been. But when price reached that 15-minute order block refine within the 4, absolutely nothing happened aside from price just continuing to push through. So as you can see, unless that was taken on a limit order, absolutely nothing there. And as I've said, I took already a short on GU, therefore I was already in the position at the same time, so not too much I could do there on AU anyway, but nevertheless still sell bias moving into the new month. So that's AU. GU, as I've spoken about already, that was a short position that was taken. Stop loss moved to half, taken out. Would have been taken out for a full loss anyway. It's unfortunate there. US dollar CAD, well, I didn't trade US dollar CAD at all. The only position I was looking to trade US dollar CAD from was down at the absolute lows or up at these highs, and in the immediacy I was just looking at US dollar CAD to understand the direction of play that the dollar would look to roll in. So nothing on US dollar CAD at all, to be fair, but what you could see is that how the EMAs are looking to support that position towards the upside. And that's just good thumbs up in terms of the strategy. And what I love to talk about EMAs on all those higher time frames, such as the 4 daily and the weeklies. It's good to see the performance there. And then UJ again, absolutely nothing. Highs and lows only for me on UJ. I like the 4-hour order block. We've come out of the range, made that higher high, looking for the higher low position, any type of confluence to the left. The only 4-hour order block we have is this one selected, supported by that 4-hour 50 MA. So looking for price to come into this area before that long move. As you can see, price had completely other ideas. Didn't come to the 4-hour 50 MA. So no position for me. And then on GCAD, a nice looking position there on GCAD. As I mentioned, took GCAD short as well, but just nothing happened. Waited towards the 4-hour 50 MA. Smart to manage that position as a result of price moving away from the market, and then I was taken out prematurely anyway. So that was pretty much the play team on a Friday. Not too much to talk about at all. Bit of a disappointment, but we try not to have too much expectations, but we must remember we are human. When we see price action technically looking favourable, of course, there is a little bit of excitement there that money is to be made, percentages are to be had. So I'll finish that off, get to my chart analysis for the day, and we'll see how the cookie crumbles in a brand new month. So thank you very much, everyone, for your attention, for your time, your patience, your support. Appreciate it. All the very best in your trading journey. You'll definitely hear from me shortly. Do take care in the immediacy. All the best. Charles.